The Elden Ring DLC is out, and with it, so many people are review bombing the DLC. Is this warranted, or does everybody just need to get good? Shalom, I'm Noah Price, your Christian gamer. I love RPGs, and one RPG series that I love so much are Souls games. I love Souls-like so much because they are so challenging. There's just something about it. I swear, I'm not a masochist, okay, I swear. But that journey of going through and forcing yourself to get good and learn the boss pattern, and that satisfaction for actually beating a boss is so good. It's, you can't get it anywhere else. Been enjoying Elden Ring so much. I mean, my regular playthrough is over 200 hours at this point, and with the release date of the DLC coming out, I was looking forward to it. Even in preparations for the DLC, I even platinumed the game. Looking forward to that video. That video is coming out hopefully soon. But with it, I've been excited to jump in the DLC, and so when it came out, I had such a great time jumping into this new content and prepping for it, trying to beat Mog, even to just get into the DLC. And it's crazy to think that, like, within this first week of it being out, that there's a lot of conversation around it being too hard. And I'm gonna be honest, I fall in between. I'm more in the camp in that I think it's fine, but I do see where some people are coming from, and we're gonna talk about it. At this point in time, I've only put in 15 hours into this DLC, so I have not completed DLC, but boy, I have done a lot, and with it, it's crazy to think how much they put into this DLC. I'm so glad, and I'm enjoying this experience so far. But again, a lot of people are feeling cheated because it does feel a little bit too difficult, and not in the normal Souls ways. A lot of arguments, people are going around saying, yeah, no, they're just complaining like how everybody else always does when the new Souls games come out. They're just complaining just like that because they just need to get good. Souls games are obviously hard. What do you expect? But there's an argument of it being too hard in the sense of it's not fun. When you're someone like me who loves Souls games and you're looking forward to the next Souls games, or you're playing a Souls game, what you're wanting is that hard challenge, that hard difficulty. But there is a balance to difficulty. There is a point where a threshold where once you pass it, it is unfun. A lot of people talk about how when games make their difficulty meter harder, when you choose hard over normal, one thing people are worried about is where you just turn the bosses into bullet sponges. This is a common trope that a lot of people do because it is hard to make difficulty to change a lot of things, and so sometimes it can be easier just to make a number go up. You make the boss have more health, it does more damage, etc. The downside of that is, one, it's not as fun. It might not be as challenging, or it's on the other side where it's too unforgiving and it just feels unfair. Where I've experienced this personally, I haven't experienced some of what people have talked about where it's not fun going into a boss in the DLC and getting hit 2 times and then you lost. In my case specifically, I would have to argue that it's a little bit worse than probably some others because I'm someone who's broke, so I have to make use of what I do. So I have a PS4 and I'm playing it off the PS4. You know what that means? Long load times, everybody. So every single time I get done with the boss where I get dusted quickly, I have to go back to that load screen, wait a bit, and then get back in. Now, this does remind me of the awesomeness that they did with Elden Ring and making Stakes America, or making basically any boss fight you have, you are going to be able to respawn at the boss fight. Remember back in the day when you had to run back? You had to do the run back to the boss? Oh my goodness. Imagine that. Without having that problem, it still kind of sucks to, you're trying to learn a boss, and every single time you start a boss fight, you hit twice, boom, you're done, and you have to wait all over again until you can try it again. And for some people, it's a little bit too brutal in the damage output they do. Now, there are things that the game does. Following it on the website, on Twitter, and seeing everybody's posts has been so funny. I've talked about this on stream while playing the DLC, but like one thing I love about the Souls games, and you get this all over the place, but is shared experience. I love shared experiences, and I think the Souls games has that greatly, where you go in, everybody started the DLC and like, oh, okay, I'm filling this out. All right, I feel pretty good. I'm prepped. And then you go to this certain spot. You're like, oh, Black Jail Knight? I could take him. And then boom, instantly get dusted. And I think it's so funny that everybody has that shared experience of getting dusted by that person. But there's still an argument where that's not always the funnest experience of like everybody's getting the same feeling of getting wrecked super hard, even when they prepped and get good. And so now you're getting the counterbalance of people on Twitter posting like, hey, how about you use your other stuff? Because there's a lot of talismans that are to boost damage reduction. And so kind of this different ideology when it comes to building your character is before it's all about building and going optimized towards doing damage output, and now it's almost switching to like, no, you gotta do damage reduction. And so I would agree that when you even look at the ideology of like when you're making a character, it is more fun to be making a character who's putting out damage or doing their build, their ideal where they want. If you're doing a bleed build, you're all in on trying to get that bleed. That's a funner build to actually create compared to when you go over here and focus on defense. It's like, oh, that's not as fun. That's more looking on the negative side. It's like, all right, I gotta survive, I guess. So I can understand that part. Honestly, again, the only part that I really thought was unfun or was unforgiving was the fact that, yeah, no, every single time I was in a boss fight, like, yeah, no, it's like 2 hits and I'm dead. That's not a lot of like forgiveness during a boss fight. Part of the fun part of fighting a boss is you're fighting it, you take damage, and you're learning the patterns. And when you die by 2 hits, sometimes 1 hit, yeah, you don't have a lot of time to really start learning the boss fight. So I can understand that part of it kind of sucking. For me, again, one side that has made it where I'm still having a blast is the game does put stuff for you to help you out in your experience, to make it less brutal. Souls games has always been where it's like, it's a hard game, but it's hard depending on what you choose. It doesn't have to be the hardest game ever. You could choose some broken builds. There are broken builds if you want to. In this game, there's summons. You can summon in and have that help. Now, there's still posts going around of like, hey, I summoned in my dude and we still got dusted. I'm having that experience too. And that's okay. Again, this game is a DLC where it's hard. They warranted that the DLC was going to be hard, even to the point of, hey, in order to get to the DLC, you had to fight Moog. It's a hard boss. It's kind of a test to be like, hey, this isn't going to be easy. You can't just walk through the portal that spawned. No. You have to fight a boss that is pretty hard to try to get into the DLC. But even so, even when you go into this DLC, they have stuff for you to kind of boost yourself up. They have these little meta progression that is only tied to the DLC. So if you're playing the normal game for the first time and you don't want to mess up your scaling, your balance before you actually fight the main game, if you want to keep all your progression in the DLC, you can with 2 different methods. I don't know how to pronounce it. Erdtree blessing. I don't know. It's a way to actually decrease things, and it's kind of similar or tied to just like your health potion of you want to be upgrading that as much. The reason why I talk about this is for some reason when it comes to difficulty in the Souls games, there's this idea of you didn't do it right. You got to get good scrub, and if you do use a broken build, or in this case with Elden Ring, it's very common, if you use a summon, it's kind of looked down upon. Like you were like, oh, you didn't really beat the boss. You didn't really, and it really like devalues other people's experience. One, I'm just gonna say it, that's dumb. You're not wrong in the sense we didn't have the same tried and true experience of beating the boss. It wasn't as difficult for each other, but it's like, it's a game. We're trying to have fun. We're trying to experience the fight, and it's still a fun challenge even with a summon. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of working out at the gym. You could really easily demean someone else's experience at the gym, their hard experience of working out and trying to get better and improving by you being able to lift higher or heavier weights than them or higher repage, and be like, see, you don't know the experience because you didn't experience like me, when a big point of it is they are struggling at where they're at, and so it's relative to them, and that challenge of being relative is very important when it comes to difficulty and challenge and even satisfaction. But you could also look at it another way, similar to using a summon in the fight, is you could kind of diminish that experience by, hey, instead of working out, instead of giving it your all, you're not getting out as much of the experience as someone who did put in all the work at the gym. Someone who just casually shows up, does a little bit and goes out won't get the same improvement as somebody who went in and went focused and went 110% the whole time. Yeah, I can see that argument when it comes to difficulty with Souls games of if you use a summon, it changes the fight up a bit and you didn't fully experience the boss the same way. But that doesn't mean it should be shamed in a way of you can't do that experience, you can't use a summon to fight a Elden Ring boss. Okay, I don't think it should be shamed as much. The main reason why I bring this up is this bleeds over for a lot of people into the Erdtree blessings. Some people are looking at the Erdtree blessings as like a summon, where it's like, oh, that's only if you're a scrub. If you're a baby, you'll use that. No, No, it's not. These are literally just like your sips. And I don't know anybody else, but I have not seen anybody look at like getting all your sips, because you do have to find your sips to get more flasks. And nobody looks at that as being like doing easy mode. So it's like, I think that should be also looked in that kind of capacity also. Again, the game has put stuff for you to actually, hey, go explore. And especially in Elden Ring's case, compared to any other Souls games, this game's still huge, even in the DLC of its open world. Go explore. You don't have to go at the big bosses right off the bat. And in fact, I didn't. I explored. Did I still have a hard time against the boss? Yes, I did. It's such a hard time. But I still explored and made sure I got those blessings. I've been still having a good time. I'm still enjoying it. Am I getting my butt kicked? Yes, I'm getting my butt kicked a crazy amount. But I'm still having a good time. And when you look at a Souls game, what do you want from it? You want that challenging experience. That is what you're being sold to. That is why you go to the Souls game, is for that hard difficulty. Now, Souls games also have a great lore base. It also has great music. It has a lot of cool designs of elements, but main focus and the reason that the public knows Souls games is through its challenging difficulty. And I don't think you want to pay $40 for a DLC for it to be easy. So it makes sense to me why it's hard. I think a lot of people should look at the DLC as it being hard. Maybe that will help a lot of people who are going in and getting bodied. But I will mention, I do understand some people's like problems with possibly the DLC of it being too hard, in the sense that when, yeah, every boss you run into, you take 2 hits and then you die. That's not the best feeling, but let's be honest, that happened to a lot of us against Margaret at the beginning of Elden Ring also. So the last thing I had to mention is that, again, Souls games, they're known for their hard difficulty. A big part of it is perseverance. Learning to persevere. This is all the way back to the first Dark Souls game and the focus on hollowing out. This whole lore-based side of it was connected to the idea of perseverance, and that if you gave up your will, you would hollow out and basically die. And this idea of, even to the point of NPCs telling you, hey man, don't hollow out. Keep on going, keep persevering. It reminds me so much. I love it so much, even as a Christian, because as a Christian, it reminds me of the idea in the Bible where it talks about the walk of a Christian's life is, it's not a lot of people do it. It's a narrow path that is hard to follow compared to the wide open path that is easy for everyone else. This is a hard journey, and a journey that takes perseverance to go on this hard driven path. This is why I love Souls games so much. It reminds me of that, and it builds up that idea of perseverance of like, nah, I'm gonna keep fighting. I'm gonna go on. And with that being said, goodbye, be safe, friend, and don't you dare go hollow. Oh gosh. Okay. Leap forward. You don't even get that much time after it does that charge attack, and then he does a sweep. Okay, so I was right about this turning spot. You just gotta get away. He's mid-range. See, that's the only thing I can think of, is like, you only get time for that much.